Hello, everyone. I'll just start off by saying this video is likely to be a bit longer. So, for everyone's sanity, let me just knock out my big picture ideas first. For those who want a quick summary before they go off and enjoy their weekend, and then we'll kind of get into the nitty gritty, nerdy stuff. Um, we're over our B wave retracement targets, which means this thesis is likely wrong. We've blown through our double top. We've had good confirmations from the market. Even when we look at something like DXY, we didn't get a breakdown here. We actually got follow through. I mean, it looks like the dollar's about to rally and give for the confirmation. So what you're probably looking at is a reinflation trade. So, even these energy stocks that are kind of leading the way to the downside, utilities that are having weakness, these are likely to rally back as well. Oil will probably find like a new range to trade in. Look for 100 to probably defend, and then set a new range just because there's been a lot of damage. So that's likely to unlikely to bounce back. I'm still looking for a sharp correction before we can get long and chase. And I've done some bleeding, we were right about catching the bottom and we got long at the moments, but then I was kind of quick to take profits and kind of watching certain B wave levels, trying to get short here to see if we would form a double top. The headline today, most historic rally ever in the market, ever, period, so my process being like what's historically what has occurred, what is most likely, and playing those probabilities. This is a small probability, obviously something that's never happened before isn't really something you could plan for, right? Give a few of my profits back from the initial part of the rally as I've tried to hunt out some shorts, and I still have some coming into the weekend because I think you could see a sharp pullback maybe next week. Thought we would even get it to today and people would be taking off some risk into the weekend, but we didn't really see that. I mean, we just saw some stagnation, consolidation at the highs, not necessarily bearish. There is lots of bearish put buying, lots of aggressive put buying, especially for like the end of this month as people try to hunt out a quick move. And I'm kind of in that camp where, this isn't really where I want to be opening new longs. I was filling out some positions. And let me just say that, I'm not, funny enough, my performance started to stagnate here a little bit as I gave some of my profits back. I think I gave a little bit more than a quarter, probably like 30% of the profits that I made from the bounce back to the market. Obviously, it's still up really good on the year. Just try to see if we could hunt out that double top. It feels bad when you're just getting kind of slowly squeezed like that, but the risk reward is always what you're looking for. If you're feeling some FOMO and you're feeling like you've missed out, you really have, the same thing here. People felt like they missed out when they got this breakout. Well, this led to a 6-month rally, and now that our thesis is dead and we're unlikely to see a new low on the year from here. Is where my thought is. You'll probably see some sort of major back test to this previous high, or maybe not even. Like this when this breakout came, you did get a major back test to the bullish support here, and that just got bought right up. Not even testing the previous high, right? Just formed a double bottom here and then rallied further. But that was a 6-month rally, right? So you could feel like, oh man, I've missed so much, but I think it's actually pretty good discipline. Doing nothing is doing something, and it's usually the hardest thing to do. This isn't really where you want to be accelerating your positioning, which is another way to look at some of that aggressive put buying is, institutions trying to hedge their positions as they've all FOMO'd into the market and they don't want to be blindsided by a news event, war breaking out, the Strait getting closed again, which is not even really open. So I don't even know how much damage a headline that could do. Maybe it could get a knee-jerk reaction, but I think the market would just buy it up again. So, I will say it's pretty interesting that some of your like liquidity indicators like Bitcoin aren't looking too healthy, and I mean even when we look at the RVOL, only today did our RVOL actually get over one. Only today did that happen. Most of the week we've actually had a below average relative volume. Um, from this market. The call buying has been aggressive and historic. Some of the largest call buying we've ever seen, and that could be institutions getting caught offsides, not having bought the bottom, and using those massive call positions to buy shares at prices that they like, right? And it also gives them the flexibility to say, do I want to execute these calls and actually carry this share position? Is this actually the start of a new bull rally? Or am I going to unload these calls? That's why this rally has moved the way it is, because options have become so popular. So keep in mind the same effect. As options become more and more popular, you're going to see more crazy rallies like this. And when we do get the eventual crash, options are going to make that crash so much worse. This type of gamma squeeze to the upside can also occur to the downside because the dealers, are caught offsides. So to hedge, when you buy calls, a market maker has to sell you that call. Then they have to turn around and buy shares to hedge it, right? And that's what you call a gamma squeeze because they have to buy proportional to the gamma risk that they have, right? So then they load up shares and they have to continue to do so as the market rallies and as the call value accelerates, which then causes the cyclical effect in the market. Now, when it unwinds, it can unwind aggressively and rapidly, which is why I am looking for that sharp, aggressive pullback. And even where we're here at the market, like, keep in mind, something that even brings us down a full 3% would literally just bring us back to the trend line, this green trend line here. So, you're definitely in territory here where you could have a substantial pullback and it would just be a buy the dip moment, which is another reasoning for me to say, okay, the big thing for me was even on Thursday, I noticed that okay, we've flipped the monthly completely and we've now brought it back to a bullish RSI. When we go to the weekly here, we flipped the weekly. No, we haven't flipped it, but we've turned it. So next week, maybe you get a big plunge early on in the week, and then you rally for the rest of the week. This could actually flip green next week. As soon as next week, the rally continues, and then then you have your 2-day and 1 week confirmation. Holy cow, that's extremely bullish. Okay, that's one of our best long-term setups, right? So be it. I will say, even just off these 2 days of middling performance from me, as I kind of get bled by the market a little bit, kind of hunting for some dips, and setting up new positions with lots of time. As I start to confirm, getting the confirmations of okay, I'm wrong, I'm off sides here. The bot has caught up to me aggressively. I was beating the AI option bot, and now I think we're even, or I'm only slightly ahead here, because that thing is just as consistent gets. And so while I'm taking a period of consolidation in my performance, it's just continuing day after day. It's extremely impressive. I will say our stock portfolios look amazing, and that's kind of when I want to go back to stocks like HIMS here. We bought HIMS at the lows. I've been hearing a lot of people complain about this. I haven't been the happiest camper about what's been going on here. However, just taking a moment to talk about the fundamental thesis here, PIMS, if you guys remember back when in this euphoria, where I was actually looking for HIMS to get to 100, and I was like, I'm not bullish on this. And I mean, we wrote multiple newsletters about it. I don't like this company just because of the GLP-1s. I liked them because of the men's health and the peptides, and now they're doing peptide production. And now this thing is rallying because of the peptide production. Now there's a lot of debates over the utility of peptides and whether it's a placebo effect or not. Look at some of the it's the nutritional industry, right? And when things aren't highly regulated, there's always going to be abuse of substances and BS products. But it's because they're banned. When things are unbanned and legitimate companies can make legitimate products and do legitimate testing of them, that's when you could get this big boom and there isn't as much garbage. So, the people who are kind of being pessimistic about this whole thing, I think they're just stupid. I have been, for those who don't know, this is my background. Before I got into markets, I was, I have multiple degrees. I was a research scientist. I have a biochemistry background and also a genetics background with biotechnology. I think legit peptides are legit. And I think the men's health stuff is, these people taking this testosterone and stuff, it's life changing. If you get on that stuff, you're never going to get off. You boost your testosterone, your energy levels go up, your immune system skyrockets, your metabolism gets better. Then you could take these peptides, you could further suppress your metabolism without all the side effects of the GLP-1s. It's a different alternative route that you can go. You can get enhanced recovery with the peptides. All kinds of stuff. It is going to be very expensive, but now that you are unbanning these and the FDA is giving approval on a lot of these drugs, those prices can start to come down a lot and it becomes more accessible to the public to have these alternative products. And, maybe some of them aren't as good as they claim because we don't have enough studies and it's a placebo effect, but shit, man. If you get results are results. It doesn't really matter if it's a placebo effect to a certain point, right? If you're seeing improvement, whether it's because you have tricked yourself into thinking that things are better, if it could be measured that you are better, did you really waste the money? Not really. And are you hurting yourself? No, not really. They're just proteins. They're not really some of them are. They're aminos. So, yeah, I really like the setup on this chart. That's the other part. We have a clear higher low with a really nice rounded bottom, giving us that breakout. We have the momentum confirmations. The daily just confirmed today. The 2-day is giving the full confirmation. That RSI structure looks beautiful. The weekly here looks like we could finally get the fire to the upside. This stock is at least going back to 60. It's at least going to test the highs. This setup looks absolutely beautiful. And we averaged down here, I think around 19. I was buying more shares. This looks really good. Really, really good to me. I just wish I had more calls. We caught this initial pop and made great profits. And then this pullback kind of took it off my radar. I was watching on shorter time frames for the pop over this high, and we kind of got it today really fast off the open. But I did buy into this pullback, and I do like the way this is setting up. I think over 30, this thing. Keep in mind, shorts are attacking this. They were attacking this today. They're trying to get short on this name again, just because peptides is a pseudoscience. There's not enough research. Well, there's not enough research because it's been banned. So, and just placebo or not, man, they are gonna make a killing off these peptides. So, I know there's people like, even would I call him a good friend? Even I wouldn't call him a good friend, but Martin Shkreli is really popular. He's been doing a lot of debates on peptides. We've talked a lot. So we haven't done like a video or anything, but we've talked a lot on like live streams and stuff and DM'd back and forth. And he thinks I'm an idiot. And I think he's just a dork who hasn't actually been around people that are using this or had been in the industry. I've been in the fitness industry For, I was a competitive athlete for many, 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 many years. I know how much people spend on this stuff, and I know how adamant they are that it works. And they are the greatest spokespeople ever. Even my, I got family that takes this stuff. They'll never stop taking it. I got a sister who takes peptides, recovery on her bad shoulder. She'll never not recommend it because of how fast she healed from that. That was a really persistent issue for her. So he could tell me all day and night that there's not enough research and that it's a short lasting, half-life, and there's no way it could cause actual improvement. First of all, there's a lot of errors in that thesis. And I know he'll say, I've created drugs from scratch. All right, dude. I mean, I also went to school for it. I just think you're too full. I just don't. And at the end of the day, none of that fucking matters. You know how many supplements don't do shit for you and they still make billions of dollars? At the end of the day, we're talking sales. We're talking money, okay? And there's going to be a ton of money. And frankly, although there are some horror stories, mostly from SARMs, let's be honest, not so much peptides, they're going to make an absolute killing. And they've been, for the past year, buying the infrastructure and distribution they need so that when this change happened, they were ready for it. So this is their time to shine. All right. All they have to do is execute. And this is a company that's shown us many times before that they can execute. And at the same time that this is happening, they're also getting cleared up on the GLP-1s. So my God, really like the setup here. The chart looks great. The fundamentals seem to be coming to that trifecta of events. And now we just need this founder CEO, which is, market loves founder CEOs to execute. And he recently did a podcast with Him's House, which is a social media channel completely dedicated to the stock. And I really liked his comments and stuff on that. I really like where his head's at. I love it, love it, love it. Okay, so anyways. There's also other names in this market that are looking interesting. GME had a nice pull back to kind of like the breakout here, which is really interesting. Now, this is a trickier meme stock that will kind of set these up and then fail them. But here on the 2-day, we could kind of see that, wow, this move looks so real. Even the way it pulled back right to the trend line, still above that bullish EMA. Here on the 2-day, we have the momentum indicators we want to see setting up. RSI structure also looks fine here. On the weekly, again, we're getting some confirmation. It's a little bit barcodey here. I wouldn't like to see that. But if this thing wants to rally, maybe you got another 12 points. Maybe you're coming back to 36. Maybe you're going to pop higher than that. I had some MSTR calls and I took some profits on that. Feeling a little silly, but I'm really hoping I'm hoping I can get an entry here on some sort of pullback. But we had the 2-day firing to the upside on the daily, and the weekly is not only about to flip green, but also actually giving us the squeeze signal on the TTM, which kind of tells me that people are looking for the really big move on Bitcoin, maybe to reclaim over 84. This is a massive key level here on Bitcoin, by the way. So watch this. This has been a major support level. When it broke, it caused a cascading effect all the way back to the 70s. We're now over. Let's undo that. If we zoom out here, we are now over this trend line here, and we're looking for the acceleration, and we're getting the momentum confirmations here, right? So it's starting to look good, even though it's kind of lagging the rest of the market. There is still a lack of liquidity, but this is kind of telling us that, okay, maybe it's going to start coming back to us. Which is pretty interesting. I would have thought during all the turmoil that we would have seen more of a appreciation of Bitcoin, but we really aren't seeing it. So it'll be interesting to see. We have the technical set up. We kind of see what the smart money's likely doing. So what's going to be the driver? Because one of the things I hated about Bitcoin up until this point is for years, people have been saying, 250,000, 250,000, 250,000. But then over this period of time, from basically like 2023 to 2025, like especially late 2025, this meltdown started. And during this meltdown, you pretty much got everything you ever asked for that the Bitcoin maxis have been asking for. Like you got regulation clarification, you got corporate interest and buying, massive corporate interest in buying. You kind of got the sign of approval from multiple countries. I mean, you got more companies than ever actually building infrastructure kind of around the crypto industry. You've got adoption within the namesake companies. I mean, think back to like 2021 and 2022, where people were begging for this stuff. Oh, when this stuff comes, it's going to be $1 million. And then you kind of got all of it, and then it was just selling off. You know, it's probably one of the biggest buy the rumor, sell the news types of setups I've ever seen. You know, just like on an extreme scale. But it does look like it's coming back, so that's looking good there. The other thing that's been interesting to me that I kind of paper-handed, we did come in and buy the dip on Baba, and I do like the way that China's setting up here. I mean, we can kind of zoom out to like FXI. You know, it's not like the US, but these do have aggressive moves, and we are also getting the confirmation here. You know, the weekly just now starting to improve, which kind of tells me that this is probably wanting to do a test of its previous highs as well. And year to date, the weakness here hasn't even been as strong as U.S. markets as well. So keep that in mind. Emerging markets have been pretty sturdy while the U.S. has had some pain. So I've got to keep that, you know, don't let it sneak past you. We did close some NEO profits today, but I am looking next week for some rolls on there as well. Because once again, like nice rounded bottom. Maybe this wants to form a cup and handle and then fire right through the previous highs. But already you kind of have a cup and handle already. So I kind of want to see if we'll just kind of like gap into like 78 and then take a shot at 10. Is kind of what I'm watching. If you do get the full confirmation through this level, 10 is probably really conservative, to be honest with you. You're probably looking for like 14, 15. You know, maybe you come all the way and you test 16 again for NEO. Well, I think this is definitely a sleeper play that can make a huge comeback. So keeping an eye on that one. Then we also have the cloud companies. So I bought shares of Irene. Actually down in was it in the 30s that we bought it? Let me double check actually real quick. So I put 5% of my, wow, I actually have a ton of Irene. I'm actually going to look at that later because maybe I need to do some adjustments here. Yeah, we actually have a lot of Oracle and we have a lot of Irene. I'm like 10% in cloud. With the rallies, I'm probably more like 15% of my long term in cloud names. Well, data center / cloud. If we're just talking cloud, I have even more than that, but just in data center ideas. So, which by the way, we pretty much sold the high of VIX. By the way, I had some VIX in the long term. That was pretty good. Pretty good call. So I'm looking at 5% of Irene at 41.76. So we're up pretty nicely here. And we're once again getting the confirmations, got the breakout. Structure looks good here. 2-day just now giving the confirmation. Looking to see if we can come back into the 60s. Oracle having a really nice rally. Finally, people are starting to talk about the fact that Oracle has a very sizable position in TikTok that is likely doing very well. And this company looks to be making a really nice comeback. This is a company where it's like pretty wild that we get these big earnings sell-offs from it. They gave us guidance late last year, and they have been in line with that guidance since. Meanwhile, they traded a lower valuation than they did before even the like peak AI euphoria. So it's very interesting to me that they're kind of treating Oracle, which is a legacy company that has very predictable income, that is trading at a relatively cheap evaluation this poorly. Like, I actually kind of would have expected this one to bounce back even more. So I'm going to be really keeping an eye on this, especially as the weekly starts to confirm here. One thing that is a little concerning with some of these names is we aren't getting the turn on the monthlies. But if you do get that turn on the monthly here soon for Oracle, and this is just one example. I mean, run through your charts if you'd like to, or just let me do it for you. I'll mention them. But I'm watching about like 50 different names where if we do get this flip on the monthly here this year, they have the potential to double, like easily double from where they're at. With options, we're talking 1,000% potential on swing positions, which is totally doable here from where this market's at. Because again, it sucks to kind of, if you're like me, or maybe you didn't even buy this dip because you're watching this on YouTube and you're not part of the community, or maybe you're just riding the share positions, you're just sitting on your hands because you don't have a lot of confidence. You're not as late as you think you are to this. And you really shouldn't feel bad missing something that happens for the first time ever. This is just kind of like where you learn an important lesson, because we've seen V-shaped recoveries. Obviously, that's what this market does, in the modern era. But even for those that were looking for a V-shaped recovery, this is pretty nuts. So I wouldn't beat yourself up about it too much, okay? Get ready. Strap in, because I think we're about to go into blue skies. Dips are probably going to be buys, which is fine because, I kind of figured the second half of this year would be like this, but I thought we'd have to wait till June because 80% of, those midterm years are like that. So hoping, in my dream scenario, I get paid on the puts I bought today, come Monday, Tuesday, and then I buy the dip, and then we just rip it from there on the names that have the most alpha. So I didn't cover them all in this video. I probably talked about HIMS too much in this video, but if you watched this video all the way through, leave a like, maybe share a comment, spread the love, tell a friend. And join the Discord. We're doing a free week, but since I kind of just fumbled the ball on Thursday and Friday for free week, which, to be fair, I mean, I hit a lot of I still hit some really good trades, but overall did give some profits back to the market. We're going to extend the free week just so people could see what the norm is actually like. So go check it out if you like, or if you, I mean, it's free. What do you got to lose? I mean, if it's free. So just go check it out. I mean, go subscribe to the newsletter. Quit being lazy, and I'll teach you how to not suck ass at this stuff, which, I mean, I guess let's talk about it real quick. Let me talk about one more thing. This is already kind of long. I'll just say, I'll give you the short version. You're always going to be wrong about something in the market. And when it comes to bigger ideas or theses, you're probably going to be wrong more than you are right. But it doesn't really matter as long as your trading isn't wrong more than it is right. or when you are wrong, you're not taking like huge losses. Being wrong here and trying to short it and getting squeezed would have been a problem if I had sized up really aggressively and continue to size up really aggressively. But the reality is, I took about like 1/10 what I was willing to take, and I only slightly added to it. And I only gave back a portion of the profits that I made from this move. Not even a portion of the profits of so far this year, just on this over this like 2-week period. So that's good risk management, and that's all that matters. Is that when you're not getting completely blown out when you're wrong. And so on these dips, I think this is actually also where I could start taking some larger trade sizes and start to look for these nice continuations, because these setups are really good for this market. So, even though it's 2 days of just like discipline and not doing anything and being wrong and feeling, you might feel like ass about it, even in the moment, in the thick of it, when the price action moving and I'm sitting here, I've been trading for so long that I could really only relax when I have something to worry about. And when I don't have positions on, because I don't really want to buy stuff when it's so overbought, and that I'm having trouble being patient and I got the FOMO, it's a really tough spot to be. But if you're there, doing nothing is it's a sign of discipline, man. It's like sticking to a diet, like the cake's right there and you want to go get that sugar high, and you say, no, I'm going to follow my rules. I'm going to follow my process. And even if I miss a few trades now, or I miss some money right now, I already know that following my process gets me great results. So I'm just going to stick to that. I'm just going to do what I always do. Okay. And there'll be people around you. People who are saying like, oh, you should have seen this rally coming from a million miles away. And blah, blah, blah. I knew this was going to happen. Oh, really? Really? You knew we were going to have a first ever in history moment? You knew that? Did you really know that, though? People are always so full of shit, whether they know it or not. And it doesn't really matter what they say or what they're doing. Even, if you're trading with other people in the Discord that have a different style than you, or you're following someone on Twitter with a different style than you, when they say something that you disagree with, and you're in the middle of a trade or something, and you're trying to make an emotional decision on something you read because some, macro guru said something, like, it's okay to just let it play out, see if you're actually wrong, adjust the plan from there, because there's always another trade, there's always another setup, there's, I like to say that every year there's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, right? So, don't fret it, okay? Give yourself some grace. This shit's hard. And you don't got to do it perfectly to make a ton of money, all right? So, God bless. We'll see you guys next week. Chin up. It's going to be fun, all right?